Of them. Hi, it's Eric Weber. Some of you I know from previous classes. The others, this has served as an introduction of sorts to me. But really, more importantly, I want to introduce you to the client for this semester, who is launching TrioBike here in the United States, my friend Simon Hjorth. Simon's really a full-time ad guy and has been for many years. Worked around the world at some very prestigious agencies on really impressive brands, but he's taking at least some of his time now to launch this, and so I thought we'd start by asking him a few questions, and then of course you'll have a chance to ask some other questions indirectly, but we're going to get started with this. So first off, thanks Simon for being part of the class. Why don't you start by telling us how'd you get started with TrioBike? How'd you get involved?
So first of all, hi students. As you will hear in a second, my accent is not really Texan. Originally from Denmark, and Denmark have a bicycle culture where it's just the way you get around. My wife was 8 months pregnant, riding in the snow to work, and that's what you do. So bicycling is just a normal sort of the mean of transportation for many, also because cars are very expensive. I think it was last summer, perhaps last spring, I was thinking, do I really have to work and advertise the rest of my life? And the answer was yes, but I also want to do something else. And I looked at different options, but thought about, in Austin, and I think a lot of cities in the US, you have traffic issues. A lot of people have spent a lot of time in traffic jams and whatnot. Parking issues were more difficult to park and more expensive. And also from an environmental perspective, all these things have to be solved somehow, and there's different ways you can do it. But bicycles, for me, is one of the solutions to all these problems. So I was like, okay, so if this is happening, perhaps it's a bit early in the sort of from a US perspective to get into this, but it definitely will be the solution going forward.
So we don't necessarily have a bike culture, but it's getting to be more that way. I think bike share programs and are getting to be more popular in a lot of cities, and certainly the environmental impact. Absolutely. I think would make this. Is that what makes this a good time?
I think I think it's still a little bit early for sort of the masses. They're still being sold like 15 million bikes a year in the US or whatever. So it's fairly substantial market, as well as e-bikes. So the electric bikes is also growing rapidly. The challenge is with a lot of these normal bikes, whether it's e-bikes, normal bikes, they don't have space for your groceries or for your dog and for your kids or whatever. So that's where the cargo bike is a new category, especially in the US. In northern part of Europe, so Denmark and Holland or whatever, where the bikes are used, it's about 20% of all bikes are now these cargo bikes. So
okay.
Bikes are being sold. It's not of the total population, but of cars are being bikes that are being sold.
Yeah, but that's a significant number.
It's fairly significant. You would see TrioBike had a case where the Norwegian royal family was riding one. The Danish royal family has a cargo bike where they bring their kids to school, and that's just become more and more common in the sort of in everyday life in these countries. So, and US will not have the same. It will take a very long time before you get to the same stage of maturity of the market for bikes used for transportation. But in certain cities and certain places, it's starting, and there's a lot of bike enthusiasts that really think this is the only way forward and are very pro these kind of bikes, and will do everything they can to promote them as well.
So one of the challenges for you then, it seems, is that not only do you have to sell your own bikes, but you also have to be an advocate for bike culture in general and for the idea of needing these types of bikes.
Absolutely.
So you're promoting the entire category first, and then a product second. So that seems like that might be both an obstacle, but also an interesting challenge. And an interesting challenge for you too is that when you're developing the marketing plan, you're really selling two things. One's the idea that everyone needs this sort of thing, not everyone, but people who should need this sort of thing. And the other is that if you do think you need it, you need a TrioBike. So think of this as two opportunities there. Beyond that, what are the big obstacles from a marketing point of view?
I think that the biggest obstacle, obviously, is that it's a new category. Second is that it's a fairly expensive product compared to you can get cars that are comparable in price,
Yeah.
right? So they're from $3,000 to $6,000-7,000 for a bike, which is a
Yeah.
lot of money.
Yes.
So it's not just something that's flying off the shelves because people say, oh, when I showed it to South by Southwest, we had a booth at the Wellness, and everybody looked at it like, wow, that's amazing, it looks great. Everybody with kids came over, jumped in, thought it was amazing, and then they heard the price, was like, okay, it's still a great idea, but I'm not buying one today. So the price is there. And then for me personally, as a company personally, the logistics getting bikes around, because it's big and heavy to move around the country.
Right.
So it has a cost, and also because you have this many options of colors and accessory and whatever. Often they're made to measure.
Right. So you don't keep an inventory of bikes.
Only a few, right?
At your
but you
house.
don't. My living room. So that's why also the delivery time is often 8 to 10 weeks from people order one to they
Okay.
get one. But most people that I've talked to so far, that's not really been the issue.
Right. This is not really an impulse buy
No.
kind of thing.
And
Okay.
people do a lot of research before they, at least the people that have bought a bike so far,
Yeah.
are people that have done a lot of research, found out, I want to have this TrioBike because it gets good reviews, great design, it's been in market for a long time and so forth.
Well, and so that does give you a little bit of a head start on your target market, because on the individual consumer side, it's going to be people who can afford this sort of thing and who are not buying it impulsively. But then also there is a commercial aspect to this, right? And that's mentioned in the initial brief, but you might expand on that a little bit, is that you sell to individuals, but it seems like this is also an opportunity for someone who might be starting a bike taxi company or a delivery company. You're delivering groceries, you're delivering, an Amazon on a local level might be interested in something like this.
Yeah, both. So you can say that's delivery services, or you can build the bikes to do all kind of that, because there are different models of the bike. So the long john, we have two wheels and a box in the middle. You can have what's called a flight case. You can have some other stuff that can transport stuff.
Okay.
We also have like hotels and others that want to give the opportunity to their guests to have a bike where they can have their kids and drive them around. And then there's a huge market for the taxi model, which is retirement homes. So retirement homes are buying these taxi models so they can take their elderly out on tours. And it's huge market. I just had a guy call today. They bought 4. They want to buy a few more. It's very popular. There's a whole non-profit organization called Bicycling Without Age, and they buy these bikes and take people in retirement homes out of that.
So people with maybe otherwise limited mobility, they're not
Yeah.
going to ride a bike,
No,
but they like the idea still of riding a bike.
because they sit in front and then they
Right.
get whatever. So
very
that's I
interesting.
think, and and
Interesting creative opportunity for you there too.
on
Seems
that
like it would be.
segment, right? So, but it's very different from the consumer segment. The consumer segment are people that are just love bicycling,
Yeah.
right? They are bicycle enthusiasts they're in for the environment. They are sort of live in the sort of not the subculture, but they sort of in a big city where they drive a few miles. I spoke to a guy the other day. He's had his bike for 2 years. He's been riding 8,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So he, takes it every day to work,
Right.
with his kids and whatnot.
So these may be people who are stretching to pay for it,
Yeah,
but are getting a great deal of use out of it. Okay. All right. They're using it instead of a car, or at least
yeah,
an
alternative
adjunct,
to a car.
Alternative to
Imagine
a car.
you live you have a car, you use it on the weekend, I have to go out town or whatever. But if you're in the town and you have 2 miles to school, to shopping, to grocery, whatever, you live in that sort of little neighborhood, use your bike for that and use your car for something else.
Gotcha. Okay. I was going to ask Simon a little bit about the personality of the brand, but instead he's provided me with what we usually call sometimes a brand guide or a brand Bible in the agency world, and he's provided one for TrioBike, which you can find on Canvas in a folder of internal documents. So I'll let you guys look at that at your leisure, but that you'll start to get a sense of how the company and how Simon see the personality of the brand. In terms of marketing, and it's something you know very well, but what does success look like to you, say for the first 3 months? If we're considering this challenge for the students, kind of a 3 to 6 month play, then what's that look like for you?
I think I have two target groups if you talk about the consumer. One is the people that are in the market for a bike like this, right? So you can target them on various ways, online obviously, right?
Right.
And get the product in front of them so they consider buying the bike. So that's sort of very heavy sort of awareness in one hand, but also sort of lead generation to like, oh, you are in the market for something, you should consider this.
Right.
At the same time, you want to get in front of the people that are influencers in this space, both influencers that are in the bike community and the publishers that write about bikes and whatnot.
Okay.
So you can say earned media opportunities.
Right.
How do you get in front of these people? Because if they are 15 competitors that are all small companies, they have limited means and limited budgets. How do you get on top of that list where people will write about, when they have to write about cargo bikes? Why would they write about TrioBike?
Right.
How do we get that sort of like, oh, this bike that is the lightest bike, cargo bike in the world, we know that this have a great design, been doing this forever, durable and all those kind of things that you think about the bike. So how do we get on top of that list?
Right. Yeah, and that's harkens back to what we talked about a minute ago, and I'll give you another hint or head start on some of your work. But if I were a PR guy, and I am a PR guy, the story I'd want to tell is really about the category first. I want somebody writing about this is a brand new category, a growing category, and what the growing interest is. And when they do write about that, they're naturally going to talk about who's providing these bikes. So it's not so much a story directly about TrioBike or directly about any one company. It's a broad story, and you got to hope that they lead with you as the sort of gold standard for the category. So
Yeah.
I think that's the PR play there, if it were me. Okay, biggest obstacle, did we cover that?
I mean, again, the obstacle is that it's a new category. Not a lot of people know about the category itself. Nobody know about the brand. It's fairly expensive. It's not just something you go and say, oh, I would like one now, I want to buy it. It takes some time.
Right. So that's actually a lot of obstacles for you. But again, in the marketing world, we have a hard time separating obstacle from opportunity. They're all tied together.
And I think that the last point is that one thing that we didn't cover actually, right? So I can sell bikes directly to the consumer on my website and deliver it directly.
Right.
Or I can sell it to bicycle shops.
Okay.
That then they can distribute in their neighborhood. Obviously, I have a lower margin on the bike that I sell to the shop, right? Because he takes half of that, or more than 2/3 of the profit that is on a
Right.
bike. He take that. But bicycle shops is another opportunity when we talk about sort of the B2B.
So they're one of your customers,
They
one
should,
of your
yeah.
audiences. If you sell one to a bike shop, then the hope is that whoever buys that, their friends, neighbors, whatever, are going to want to know where they got that. And then maybe they buy that directly from you.
They can do that, but it's fine that
Yeah.
if I can, because it's sort of the scale that it's the tipping point right now. Because every time I import 2 or 3, 4, 5 bikes, the transportation cost is fairly expensive.
Okay.
So we want to scale. So one container can have like 15 bikes. So if we want to have 15 bikes every time, so rather have volume and send it out to the bicycle shops as well, so they can help sell it, right? Because they are also the ones in the local community. And if people come and ask, I've seen about a cargo bike, which one should I buy? Then they can say, oh, I have this brand or this brand, and then you want it to be your brand. So they when we talk about influencers, the bicycle shop is part of that influencer
Gotcha.
sort of community.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll give you a start. This won't be the last time you talk to Simon, or have an opportunity to hear from Simon at least, but also be thinking about what questions I might have missed, what else that you need to know, so you can funnel those through me to Simon, or you'll have some opportunities to do this directly with Simon again. Okay. So that's enough to get started. Go blow shit up.
Thank you.